Please remember to hit that like button, comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this video. Also, in the description of this video, you can find our compiled link. Through that link, you can support the channel via our Patreon or through our affiliate links, including your playmat. If you want a custom playmat or custom card sleeves, buy them through there and it helps out the channel and you get a 10% discount. And through our TCG Player affiliate link. If you're going to buy cards, buy them through TCG Player and it helps out the channel. Also, we have our Discord if you want to chat with us. We have Twitter if you want to stay up to date on all the happenings. We have TikTok if you want to check out anything funny. And we have my Pokemon channel if you're into Pokemon, so check out LuxJ. And we will see you in the video. How's it going, everybody, today? This is CJ, back with another video. We're doing a first thoughts today. This first thought is on Hidetsugu, Devouring Chaos. Very cool card here, and it's got some powerful abilities. You got a sack outlet in the command zone, you can deal a ton of damage, and it's very reminiscent of the old Hidetsugu from the old Kamigawa block. It's a cool card. And there's a couple different versions of this card. I wanted to mention this. They've got some neon versions, which you can see right now. These are in collector boosters, and they're really, really hard to find. Like, these are going to be at a very high rarity. And I think the pink one is the most rare out of all of them. Don't quote me on that, but I have heard that they are at different rarities, like within each other. So if you happen to pull one of those, congratulations. It's going to end up being money, most likely. And yeah. Hidetsugu, Devouring Chaos, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. This card seems cool. I'm excited for this set, and we're going to hop into this. The categories we're going to talk about are cards that have a high mana value, but don't cost that high mana value to actually play. So when you exile them off Hidetsugu, you're dealing a lot of damage, but then you can cast them for less mana. Seems like a good card to include. I mentioned a good number here, but there's plenty of other ones that I could have mentioned. I just didn't want it to be too listy. After that, we've got Sacrifice / Aristocrat style cards, because you have a sack outlet in the command zone. You better be taking advantage of that. And it's a sack outlet that scries you too, so you can kind of pick what you exile to the top of your off the top of your library, dealing damage and getting able to cast it. Seems good. You got to have stuff to sack, and you got to have ways to take advantage of the sacrifice. Then I'm going to talk about ways to steal your opponent's creatures, because you can sacrifice your opponent's creatures, and that'd be great. And a billion one-off cards. We got a lot of one-off cards with some minor one-off categories, like 4 cards to the category, so I didn't feel like it was necessary to have it as a separate category. But a lot of one-off cards. That's going to be the bulk of this video. And let's just hop into this. Big stuff that costs less to play than its mana value shows. You can be dealing a lot of damage with cards like Volcanic Salvo, Blasphemous Act, which is going to end up being a staple in this deck for sure. Probably a staple even if it didn't have the, even if it didn't synergize with the price reduction type thing. Like, it's just a great card for this deck. Either way. So, yeah, auto include there. You have cards like Bedazzle, Fast Furious, Rough Tumble, and Never to Return. These cards are split cards or aftermath cards. The mana value of the card is both sides of the card combined. The mana cost of both sides combined. So you can cast, like, Never for 3 mana, but if you exile it off Hidetsugu, it's, I don't remember what the other side was worth, but it's the combination. I probably should have had that pulled up if I was going to measure it. Never to Return is a total of 7 mana. However, you can cast Never for 3. So if you exile it off Hidetsugu, you're dealing 7 mana to something, and then you can cast Never for 3 mana, or Return for 4 mana. Either or. Works out really cool that way. You also have cards like Torgar and Dargo, which get cheaper when you sacrifice things. You're playing a sacrifice deck. That seems very synergistic. Torgar can really hurt someone's life total too. Then you have cards like Shambling Attendants, Tombstalker, Gurmag Angler, and Murderous Cut, all having Delve, which lets you use your graveyard as a resource. You're going to have stuff going in your graveyard because it's a sacrifice deck, so why not? Seems good. And Curtain's Call. Seems like a good mechanic, good card for this style of deck. There's lots of other cards I want to talk about. It's a soft cutoff at 7 mana is what I did for this because I didn't want to go too far into it because it would just be too listy. But those are the cards that I found offhand that I think would be good in this deck. There's plenty of other ones though if you want to dig a little deeper. Next up, we're going to talk about Sacrifice theme / Aristocrats theme. You're going to need to have fodder, sack fodder. Cards that you can sacrifice to Hidetsugu so you can scry to. Cards that recur, or cards that make tokens for you. So some of the token creators, you got cards like Bitter Blossom, Dreadhorde Invasion, Jadar. You've got Ophiomancer. All those seem fantastic in the deck. You've got cards that you can play from your graveyard or return from your graveyard very easily, like Reassembling Skeleton, Bloodghast, Squee, Pestilent Specimen, Gutter Bones, Nether Trader. All those seem pretty fantastic. You also have Ghoulish Procession. That seems pretty good. And yeah, all those seem like fantastic includes for this deck. Next, I want to talk about cards that trigger off sacrifice, so you can get full advantage of the sacrificing. You get cards like Jury Master of the Review, which also could end up killing somebody if you sacrifice enough things. Mayhem Devil can deal a lot of damage. Vodarin Bloodcaster to make blood tokens and help you fill your graveyard a bit if you want to throw in some graveyard synergies, and otherwise just card selection. Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat are always fantastic. Same thing with Bastion of Remembrance. Pitiless Plunderer, along with Gadrak, seems pretty good. Pawn of Ulamog is great. You got Grim Horror Specs, Liliana Dreadhorde General. Drawing cards always seems like a good time. Judith is good. Dictative Erebos and Grave Pack can really hurt your opponents. Meathook Massacre. It's a Blood Artist almost with a board wipe on it. So it's really, really high utility card there. Harvester of Souls, lots of card draw. And Blight Mound, some extra token creation. Seems good. All those cards. Like, that's going to be probably a good portion of this deck. Those cards are going to really make this deck run well and run fast. I like that a lot. Next category, we're talking about steal your opponent's stuff. There's a lot of cool cards that you can use to steal your opponent's creatures and sacrifice them to Hidetsugu so you can scry to. And that seems like an extremely powerful strategy. It's removal while you're getting benefit. So cards like Active Aggression, Captivating Crew, which is really nice because you can do it all the time. Active Treason, Claim the Firstborn, Besmirch, Bloody Betrayal, Coercive Recruiter, Zealous Conscripts, Goatnap, Mass Mutiny, and Traitorous Greed. All of those cards seem like auto-includes, honestly, in this deck. They're going to be fantastic. Cards like that are going to put in a lot of work. And you can even go big with this, with cards like Insurrection. That'll either win you the game, or you can almost one-sided board wipe after attacking everybody with a lot of creatures. You can do something similar to that with Mob Rule as well. Mob Rule is a very powerful card, underrated card. And now we're on to the one-off cards. Lots to talk about here. We have Toroff, first of all. Excess non-combat damage. Say you have Heartless Hidetsugu and you flip Never to Return. You're flipping an 8-drop, 7-drop. It's 7-drop. You're flipping up a 7-drop. Say there's like a Birds of Paradise that you want to kill. Deal 7 damage to that Birds of Paradise. That's a waste of 6 damage, right? Wrong. You got Toroff in play. Boom, 6 damage to the face. It's great. But 1 damage downstairs, 6 damage upstairs. I love it. Neheb the Eternal. This seems fantastic in the deck. You flip something big, you dome somebody in the head, then you go to combat. After combat, boom, you get all this mana, and you can do more stuff. Then more damage is always good. So cards like Fire Emancipation, Dictate of the Twin Gods, Angrath's Marauders, all of these cards, the damage doubling cards, Furnace of Wrath, all seem very powerful and can put in a lot of work in this deck. Just extra damage is good. You can also throw in Wound Reflection and Archfiend of Despair for a similar effect. I like it. Next, you got cards like Scroll Rack. Being able to put cards from your hand in the top of your library is very good. You do have the Scry ability, so you really don't need that much top deck matter stuff. But cards that let you put stuff from your hand back on top seem good. Next, extra sack outlets. Just in case your commander ends up costing too much because it dies a lot, maybe you'll need some extra sacrifice outlets to keep your deck running. Cards that you could use to replace him are Ashnod's Altar, Viscera Seer, Woe Strider, Phyrexian Altar, and Attrition. Attrition, I think, is a really powerful include in this deck. Good removal card there. Skull Clamp. Fantastic card for this deck. You're going to be sacrificing things. Stuff's going to be dying. You can draw cards off that. Always good. Then you have cards that you can use to affect the top card of your library, like Vampiric Tutor, Scheming Symmetry, and Liliana Vess. All those seem pretty fantastic in this deck, especially if you're trying to make it a more powerful build, because you can either put something big on the top or put something that you need on the top. Sometimes it's both. Like, oh, I need a board wipe. Let's make it a big board wipe, like Blasphemous Act. Great stuff. There's also a bunch of cards that can benefit off of you controlling the top card of your library, including Atali. Being able to cast things for free off the top is great. You have miracle cards like Reforge the Soul, Entreat the Dead, Bonfire the Damned, and then extra card draw cards that can hurt your opponents if you have big cards on top, like Keen Duelist and Twilight Prophet. Also, Time Sifter works really well with this. If you're controlling the top of the library, you can take some extra turns with that card, and that seems very powerful. The next card I want to talk about are ways to give Death Touch. Hold on, I just forgot what this card does. It's a card I'm going to be talking about in a bit, and okay. Things that give Death Touch, because if you give Hidetsugu Death Touch, he's the one dealing the damage, so if you flip something smaller on top, you can just ensure that you can kill everything, which seems pretty good. So, like, even if you anything but a land, as long as you don't flip a land, as long as it's got a mana value, you can ping something and kill it. Seems good. So some of the Death Touch cards include Basilisk Collar, Gorgon's Head, Gorgon Flail, Vorpal Sword, which could also just win you the game, and Rune of Mortality. Similarly, especially with Basilisk Collar, Lifelink. Lifelink works the same way, so if you dome somebody for 7 in the face, you can gain 7. So some of the ways to give Lifelink include Shadow Spear, Witch's Clinic, and Luxodon Warhammer. Good stuff. And Infect works like this too, so if you can flip like a 10 CMC card and dome somebody for 10 and give Hidetsugu Infect, they're dead. Some of the good ways to do that include Glistening Oil, Grafted Exoskeleton, and Phyresis. All auto includes in this deck. That's a very powerful strategy to go with. Just a lot of ways to win with Infect here. Next up, we got Crick, Son of Yogmoth. This card seems very powerful because it can make all your big stuff cost less as long as it has black mana in it. And also, he's big and can only cost 4 mana if you pay some life. So, he works in a couple ways. Prosper seems pretty good. And also, Hidetsugu seems good in a Prosper deck. Because Hidetsugu will exile cards that you can then cast, triggering Prosper. And Prosper can go inside the Hidetsugu deck to make treasures. Great. Seems good. Wild Mage Sorcerer seems pretty fantastic in this deck. Give whatever spell you cast from Hidetsugu tapping Cascade, pretty much. Like the first spell you cast each turn from exile, give it Cascade. That seems fantastic for this build. You want to have some untapped shenanigans, so you can do it more than once a turn. Cards like 1,000-Year Elixir, Thornbite Staff, Sword of the Perins, all seem Umbral Mantle. All of those seem fantastic and let you just do it more than once a turn, and you can go nuts and deal a lot of damage very quickly. You can also double the trigger with Rings of Brighthearth, Illusionist Bracers, Battle Mage's Bracers, and Lithoform Engine. All of those let you do it twice and get 2 cards off the top and deal deal damage twice to everything. It's just great. Great stuff. Next, I'm going to talk about Mirror of Fate. This card's interesting. Sacrifice it, choose up to 7 to face-up exiled cards you own. Exile all the other cards from your library, then put those cards on the top of your library. So you can start exiling stuff with Hidetsugu and just not cast it. Just exile some big things, don't cast them. And once you get Mirror of Fate out, sack it. Put those 7 cards back on the top of your library and get rid of your deck. And then you know that the next time you're flipping, you're hitting some big stuff and you can close out the game with this. And the last card I want to talk about is Exquisite Blood. Deal a lot of damage, gain a lot of life. Seems good. Seems really good. And you might as well throw in Sanguine Bond just to win the game with that. Especially if you have the lifelink synergies, because then it will work similarly. It's just good. This is all good stuff. There's just so many cool interactions with this card that I love it. It's an interesting card, interesting design. I don't think I'm going to personally build it, but if I end up pulling one of the neon ones, one of these bad boys, then I would totally build it. The green one and the blue one I really like. If I get the green one, I'm definitely building it. And that is everything I have for Hidetsugu Devouring Chaos. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Peace out, everybody.